So welcome back to Bobby Lee Bitcoin, my new podcast series. And today we have very special guests from Las Vegas, a retired couple, Mimi and Stephen Liu. Mimi is a residential real estate broker, or was, I guess. You used to be in that business. And Stephen is a professor, was a professor of metallurgical sciences and metallurgical engineering and material science at the Colorado School of Mines in Golden, Colorado. Correct. So welcome to the show. Yep. Thanks for being on my podcast. We're going to talk about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So both of them here are sort of new to crypto. You don't own any Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, correct?
Not at this point.
Okay. So we're here to answer questions, see if you have any questions about the industry and whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting us.
Indeed. So thank you for being here. So how do you want to start off? What's the first big question you have about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency?
I'm thinking in terms of for the population. I think the most difficult task is people want to acquire Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But once they go online, it's like, whoa.
If you could move closer to the microphone, speaking to it.
It's difficult to navigate through all these, you don't know which side to trust, or how do you know which way is the secure and the right way, and are you getting indeed to Bitcoin?
Yes.
That is the number one.
It's overwhelming
information online.
Yeah.
And aside from that, there are a tons of other companies, lists, maybe for 500 to thousands of other Bitcoins, which it's completely confusing.
You're talking about all the other coins, right? All
Litecoin, GoCoin, TerraCoin, I don't know, tons of it. I can't even mention them.
Yeah. So
overwhelming.
It is overwhelming. It is. It's understandable. This is why this industry has the adoption has not been as fast, right? It's just that normal people, normal Americans, and just people worldwide, many people who are outside of this industry, who are not really the technical, geeky computer science crowd, they find this very hard to approach, right? They've heard of Bitcoin, and as you mentioned, there are literally thousands, and if not tens of thousands, of these alternate coins, what they call altcoins, a variety of other stuff. The most popular of those is Ethereum. There's been Litecoin, Dogecoin. There's been all these other coins, and some are just obscure names.
Bitcoin Cash,
some other stuff as well. Yeah. So for me, I have been a strong proponent of just Bitcoin. And this is why the book I wrote, which you both have copies of, is just The Promise of Bitcoin. So I only talk about Bitcoin, and for the same reason, there's a concept of cryptocurrency broadly, all these other coins and blockchain technology. But for some people out there, we think, like I belong to that crowd. They call Bitcoin maximalist. I belong to the crowd where we think that the true gold, the true gem is really Bitcoin itself, and not to worry about all these other alternate coins. Yeah. And then you also brought up the topic about all these other companies and websites. It's overwhelming, yes. Right? What have you seen? What kind of research have you done online?
Well, once I thought about investing, I just thought about doing, because I heard about Bitcoin and people were saying a lot of good stuff about it, but I wasn't sure when I first typed Bitcoin, and I thought, how do I know if this is the true website, or
yes.
Just because a number, a search pop up, the general public is confused and not knowing which one indeed belongs to Bitcoin, the authentic.
Yes.
So I think certainty and safety it's a big concern, because now you are applying your money into it, and you wanted to make sure you are in negotiating, or I'm sorry, you're putting the money in the right place.
Yes. Yes.
That's the biggest concern
Yes.
as a consumer.
Yeah.
That's number one.
Yeah. So what contributes to the confusion is Bitcoin itself is decentralized. What that means is there's no single company or boss, there's no single country or dictator or president that controls Bitcoin. And for that reason, there's been a lot of copycats, a lot of fraud, a lot of get rich quick schemes promoted by fraudsters and other illicit people trying to scam people. So unfortunately, the industry does have that side, and the way around it, for good or bad, is to trust some of your friends and family who do understand it, who have paid the dues and really done the research, and maybe they can give you the right pointers on what's genuine, what's a good investment, what's the real Bitcoin versus all the other potentially scammy investments, crypto investments. Yeah. So that's the state of the industry today. It's not unfortunately it's not well prepared. Not served to you on a silver platter where there's just one choice or one of three choices and nothing. There's no noise. So there's a lot of the signal to the noise ratio is still not that great, unfortunately. And we're trying as an industry. We're trying to improve things. For me, it's writing the book to promote Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. I call this the future of money, Bitcoin. And then there are other of the thousands of other coins. A few are popular and notable, like Ethereum, for example, is a very solid coin to own as well as an investment. But all the other obscure ones stay far away from them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Stephen, what are your thoughts? Yeah, go ahead.
I would not know.
Yeah, that's interesting. You're the second person that told me about Bitcoins.
Okay. And who was the first person? When was that?
One of my former graduate students. And he somehow got into it and told me how great it is that he was making money.
I see.
But that's where it stopped.
What year was that? Do you remember?
That must be about 5 years ago.
5 years ago, 2017, thereabouts?
Around.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyways, that's not the question. So kind of based on my background, mining engineering, metallurgical engineering, I thought of and couldn't find a good answer. You probably can fill in that, is the mining aspect of the Bitcoin. Okay, so can you shed some light on this whole process?
Yeah, the mining aspect. So the industry, we call it Bitcoin mining, even though it has very little to do with the traditional physical mining of metals and other commodities in the real world. So in the real world, human civilization, we mine commodities and metals. So the most famous is gold, let's say silver, diamonds, even nickel, copper. I think those all come from mines. I think aluminum is processed, but anyways, I'm not too expert on some of that.
Depending on how you say it, it's also come from mine.
From a mine, okay.
Bauxite. Bauxite is the ore.
Okay, got it. Okay, so we mine, as a civilization, we mine a lot of raw material from the planet Earth. And the high-level view is basically human, through labor and spending energy and resources, we go into the earth and bring out this material and refine it for use in industrial industrial use, for factories and so on. So that's mining. With cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, let's say Bitcoin started 13 years ago in 2009, and the industry adopted the term mining for Bitcoin, and the reason is Bitcoin is designed as a digital asset. So there's no physical representation. It's purely digital. It's on the internet. It's kind of like an email. Unless you print it out, email stays digital, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
Okay.
does.
So Bitcoin is digital. Now, the other aspect of Bitcoin that's very important is Bitcoin was designed to be limited issuance. So the world, it's designed to only have 21 million units of Bitcoin in the world. And that's a maximum amount. And it's You can ask why 21 million or why.
Right.
Yeah, so 21 was arbitrarily decided by the creator. There's a technical reason behind it. I'll explain a little bit later, maybe. It doesn't matter what the actual number is, but the important thing is he decided. Satoshi Nakamoto, by the way, the person. Well, we call him he, even though it could be a woman or it could be a team of people. So Satoshi Nakamoto decided to create Bitcoin as a digital asset and set a upper limit to it, set a full limit at 21 million. However, on day one, meaning in 2009, January, there were 0 Bitcoins. So when he created Bitcoin, he didn't say, okay, poof, we'll make 21 million and then we'll divvy it up. And the reason is if he created all 21 million and gave it to himself, it would be extremely unfair, right? He thought that no one would want to play in his playground, so to speak. Nor did he have a good way to assign the 21 million Bitcoins to any people, to everyone around the world. At that time, let's say there are 7 billion people. So each person might get 0.003 Bitcoins. So there wasn't a fair way to give it to everyone in the world. So what instead he did was he decided to create a lottery system where the Bitcoin program, the mechanism, will give out a Bitcoin reward of 50 Bitcoins every 10 minutes. Okay, so let me repeat. There's a lottery drawing, just like, in some states, Powerball or California, you have these mega lottos. Was there any in Colorado? I don't know if you lottery.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
there is.
So there's weekly drawings. Some lottos run twice a week and stuff like that. But the point is, with Bitcoin, the lottery runs every 10 minutes. And the prize is in Bitcoin. The prize you get is not dollars or euros or Japanese yen, but the prize is Bitcoin. It's 50 Bitcoin. So that was a prize. So every 10 minutes, there was a prize. 50 Bitcoins, 50 Bitcoins. And depending on how many people were playing the lottery, your odds of winning can go up or go down. So in the beginning, for the first few days, Satoshi Nakamoto himself was the only person playing the lottery. So he would say, get one lottery ticket. And he gets one lottery ticket, he gets 10, but he had all 10 so when they pick a winner, he was the winner. So until he introduced his friend, Hal Finney, another cryptographer, until more people played, he was the only winner. And the process of getting these lottery tickets and seeing if you win, that process was described as Bitcoin mining. Because through that process, they also use computers to do the confirmation to make sure Bitcoin is legitimate, all the transactions are proper. So I'm going a little bit deep here, but the point is that overall, there's a Bitcoin lottery. Every 10 minutes is a prize. And then how do you participate? So you don't go buy the Bitcoin lottery ticket at the Bitcoin store. There is no Bitcoin store to buy Bitcoin lottery tickets. But instead, what you do is this. You take a computer, you run the program, and you do a calculation that's assigned to you by the program. Okay, and the calculation is just a verification. You do some verification on someone's transaction. And when that's done properly, you get the lottery ticket. And then if you're lucky, your lottery ticket wins 50 Bitcoins. That process is what's now known as Bitcoin mining. However, and I'll finish explaining this and we'll take a quick break. However, the process has really blossomed. So back then there was 1 or 2 or 3 people playing the Bitcoin lottery. Imagine the 3 of us in 2009. We each get, maybe I get 10 tickets, you get 5 tickets, you get 20 tickets. In that case, our chances of winning, because you have 20 tickets, you have a higher chance of winning. I have a lower chance, or you have an even lower chance, whatever, right? But even with a low chance, you might still win every so often, 50 Bitcoins. And over the years, the 50 Bitcoins becomes 100, becomes 1,000, becomes 10,000, and eventually becomes 1 million. And over the last 13 years, now there's been roughly, I think, 19 million Bitcoins that have been won by participants all around the world. So today on the planet Earth, there are now some 19 million Bitcoins in existence. Okay, out of 21 million. There's only 2 million left. Okay, so that's a mining process. Yeah.
I wanted to follow up with a question. I would hope to that the original developer had some parallel to the actual mining process. The first question that comes is, what was the reason to make it 21 million?
Okay.
Is it related to the total amount of ore reserve, or what?
So Bitcoin, by the way, it could have been 21 billion. It could have been 2 billion.
Yeah.
From the records Satoshi Nakamoto left, I think the records were he originally tried to make it 42 million, and he picked 42 because 42 was a special number in the science fiction crowd. So it's a meaning of life in the what's a movie? It escapes my mind. There's a famous movie where 42 is a special number, meaning of life, right? So I think he picked 42 initially, but due to some programming error or limitation, it got reduced to 21 million. And it could have been 21 billion, 21 million, and it also has to do with the number of this is a computer science thing where these are integers, so the largest number of integer can be represented in a 64-bit or 32-bit computer.
I thought it was
so at the time, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was related to the potential exhaustion of the ore. When it's finished.
It's set arbitrarily. So the book is A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where 42 was a special number. So he picked 42, and then eventually became 21 million. But the key innovation is not the 21 million, but the fact that there is a limit. Yeah. So if you think about everything else in life, where there's a number of email address combinations or the amount of US dollars that can be printed, there's no limit to a lot of things in life. Does that make sense? Right?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
But may I back up a little bit?
So let's do this. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll save your question for after the break.
Sure. Perfect.
Okay? All right, thank you. We'll be right back. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Bobby Lee Bitcoin Podcast. And here again today we have Mimi and Stephen Liu from Las Vegas. So, Mimi, you had a follow-up question about the earlier topic about mining and the initial amount of Bitcoins. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, related to what you were saying, the inventor, let's just
Satoshi Nakamoto.
So I was just thinking about, in order for this to work, and he was pulling the, what do you call, lotto?
Lottery, yeah.
And he was getting himself.
Yes, that's right.
That so seemed to be not logical in my mind, because...
Is it not logical or not fair?
Both.
Both. Well, it's logical because he did it. So it's not. There's nothing. He actually did it, right? So there's no.
But he did it, but in my mind, the world does not know what he did, because I don't know how he did it. Nobody in my family knows.
Yeah.
And people are occupied with their profession, learning, studying, and working.
Yeah.
Most people don't have the time to kind of speculate on these things.
Yes.
So in my mind, let's back up a little bit. So in the beginning, over the years, the history of humanity, how does the economics evolved was maybe started with seashells.
Money. Seashells as money.
Exactly.
Yes.
As money. And then eventually, let's quickly, because it's going to take too long, evolve to what we have, the money, paper money and coins today.
Yes.
So in order for this to work, we all have to exchange the money for a value, whether it's service or products, right?
Yes.
Agree?
That's right.
How in the world is he going to make this work when he only for himself has this Bitcoin? That's number one.
Can we go into that?
Please.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
yeah. So Satoshi Nakamoto created a brand new system. By the way, he announced this with a white paper the previous October. So on October 31st, Halloween of 2008, he actually released a white paper on the internet, and a few people downloaded and saw it and read it. At the time, there was no implementation, so no one really believed him. His goal was to create a decentralized peer-to-peer money system that was not controlled by any company, individual, or government. So it's self-running. And up until then, this concept was completely, It was completely awesome as a concept, but it was never been done before. Okay. So by January, he announced it on the newsletter that he created the program and started running. And for the first few days and weeks, maybe, no one else paid attention. And that's why he was the only one playing the lottery.
Okay.
So it wasn't so much that he didn't want people to play. He wanted people to join. It's just that no one did. So only through his insistence, he contacted another cryptographer by the name of Hal Finney. So Hal Finney became the first outsider to join the Bitcoin program and mine Bitcoin and receive Bitcoin for free. And by the way, for free is actually with an asterisk, because it's technically not for free, because they had to contribute computing power and resources and involvement to get the lottery, to get the winnings. Meaning, even if the computer gave you a lottery ticket for free, you had to go accept the lottery ticket, check the numbers, and then win the prize. So he and Hal Finney were the first to do it. So back to your point, from a logical perspective, I don't think it's logical, illogical, but that's probably not the right English word you're looking for. Maybe from a fairness perspective, you could argue that, he should have broadcasted to the United Nations or to the whole world so everybody starts at the same time. But the reality back then was no one cared about this.
So let's back up a little bit here.
Sure.
What bothers me here is this. One person say, I'm inventing a new rule and these are my rules and blah, and I'm going to, let's say he goes to United Nations and introduce this to the world.
Yeah.
Okay? Even though he did not do it. But what I'm trying to tell you that is when I'm looking at the history of the world, the financial world, it started evolve through thousands and thousands of years.
Agreed.
When one person now comes in and say, I'm setting the new rules, and those are my rules.
No, you're misunderstanding. He's not imposing this on the world. Okay, there's a big difference. He created a system and says, this is something that's great. If you guys like it, please use it. Maybe it might succeed in taking over the world. Maybe, not taking over, in dominating monetary systems in the world. Or maybe it doesn't.
Oh.
So in the beginning, when he created this, he had ambitions that Bitcoin should be and would be successful. But by no means did he have a guarantee, nor did he have any power to enforce it to be the system of the world. And even today, Bitcoin is not the system of the world.
No.
And by the way, before Bitcoin, there were a lot of efforts to create digital currency. All these other names like DigiCash, eCash, and all that stuff, all these systems that came before Bitcoin, they were launched by individuals and so on and so forth, by teams of people, and they all failed. Not because they didn't have not because they didn't have the permission to succeed, is because the solutions were just not up to snuff. Whereas Bitcoin actually now has the right ingredients and came with the right formula, it is the closest thing to succeeding. But even today, it hasn't succeeded yet.
I think...
Do you understand what I'm saying a little bit?
Yes and no, because I'm thinking as not a consumer, but I'm thinking of what we as a society knows. Let's talk about our bank statement. Because the numbers that we pay the bills on the ledger, on the
bank statement transfer, bill pay.
They are numbers.
Yeah, they're numbers of
They're
U.S. dollars.
Just but, however, the truth is we back up those numbers with the physical money that you deposited in there, whether you work, whether you save. They're backed up, just like in gold. See?
Well, so this is where I think you're misunderstanding something.
Yeah.
The U.S. dollar, the money in your bank statement is backed up by U.S. dollars you put in. You're absolutely right about that. You earn the money in your lifetime through working hard, and you take the earnings as paychecks you deposit into your bank account. But the question that Bitcoin is here to solve is what makes money money? So did you know there's a stat somewhere that roughly 25% of the money in circulation today was printed in the last 2 years since the pandemic?
Yeah.
Right. So that's where we're seeing inflation and all that.
Exactly.
So that's why the Federal Reserve has been raising interest rates just 2-3 weeks ago. They announced the largest raise in like 10, 20 years. So the question is, what makes money money? Should money be arbitrarily should money have a property where someone like the Federal Reserve can arbitrarily increase the supply just because they think it's a good idea? Do you and I want to sign up for that kind of money where they can unilaterally increase the supply of money, thus devaluing our money? And by the way, the U.S. dollar is not backed by anything.
Not anymore.
Yeah, at least not in the conventional sense. It is backed by the might of the U.S. government with the military and with the taxation laws and stuff like that.
No.
But aside from that, the U.S. dollar is no longer redeemable by gold, right? Whereas in the old days, paper money, started out as a receivable as a note for gold and silver, for precious metals, and that's not the case anymore today.
But look at this way. If in order for me to pay the bill, let's say $1,000 on something that I purchased,
Yeah.
I need to have that $1,000 deposited in order to pay it out.
That concept is preserved. I agree with that. That's a valid, logical
Exactly.
concept.
Bitcoin, on the other hand, has not. I would not want to say proven, but it's so the word is, it's not, it's just, it's kind of like a stock, it got multiplied.
Well, let's talk
right?
about that. No, it's not like a stock. So I want to clarify for the audience and for you as well.
That way.
No, because if we're going to talk about economics and finance, we have to be very clear with our vocabulary, okay? Stocks you're referring to the stock market, those are equities, and those are shares of a company. Would you agree?
Sure.
So what stocks do you own? Give me an example of a company stock that you might own.
I have no idea.
Give me an example of a company that you like.
I don't think I own stocks.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Give me an example of a company that you like. A company.
A company that I like.
A company name. A public company.
Apple.
Apple. So Apple, they make iPhones and Apple Watch. So that company is a public company. It's listed on the NASDAQ Stock Exchange, New York Stock Exchange, and they have shares. The symbol is AAPL. Okay, I happen to be a shareholder of Apple stock. So when I'm a shareholder of Apple stock, I own, let's say, a few hundred shares or 1,000 shares. That's a percentage of the total shares of Apple stock in circulation. That means I own the financial interest, that percentage of the whole company. So I'm a shareholder of Apple. In other words, Apple, the company, partially belongs to me. So when you buy an iPhone, when you buy an Apple product, or you use Apple iCloud service, when Apple takes money from you as a consumer, Apple makes money as a company, and they have a profit. They have costs, they have operating costs, and they have a profit, and so on. And they pay out earnings per share at the end of the quarter, end of the year. They pay out dividends and so on and so forth. So I'm a shareholder of Apple. My shares of Apple stock are backed by the financials of that company. So legally speaking, I am a shareholder of that company. Okay, and Apple is a company that makes money, happens to be profitable. It's a global company, and that's what it means. That's what it means to have a stock, shares of stocks in the company. Bitcoin is not that. Even though it has a price that goes up and down, Bitcoin is not that. I'll give you an example. So about, if you've been to Europe, you've used euros. If you go to Japan, you use Japanese yen.
Yeah.
All these countries have their foreign currencies, which also trade against the U.S. dollars. So when those currencies, the value of the currency against a British pound, let's say, against the U.S., so when it goes up and down, it doesn't mean the British pound or the euro or the Japanese yen are similar to Apple stock. They're not. Right? So if we're going to be precise, those are foreign currencies which float with the U.S. dollar against the U.S. dollar. Just like Apple shares, Google shares, Facebook, and Tesla shares, those stock prices also float against the U.S. dollar, and just like Bitcoin prices float against the U.S. dollar. So just because something moves up and down against the U.S. dollar doesn't mean it's a stock. So I'm just trying to clarify with you. Bonds, stocks, foreign currencies, and Bitcoins are 4 different kinds of things. In fact, if you look at gold and silver being precious metals,
They also
and commodities, those also float against the U.S. dollar up and
Right.
down.
And
Yeah. So they're not the same thing.
No,
and real estate also.
Exactly. Everything kind of have that
Yeah.
life sort of
Yeah.
going up and down. But what determines that is
It has value.
its demand and if there is no demand for it, the value is going to decline. The price is going to go low.
Yeah, that's right.
Obviously.
That's right. That's right. You're absolutely right about that. Market demand in a free market.
So, in a way, I understand it, but still,
Yeah.
these companies, they all offer a product or a service.
Not true. So again, only company stocks offer a product and a service. Real estate, if you buy real estate itself, it doesn't offer any product or service. It's just real estate. You can go in and live in it, right?
Well,
but it's not giving you a service. It's
No,
giving you,
it's the product.
it is a product, but itself, it's not alive, so to speak. It is a product. It's like you buy a chair. It's not offering you a product or service, but it allows you to sit on the chair.
Right. It
Right.
gives you
Utility. It's called utility function.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's put it this way.
But there's a difference between the product itself giving utility versus a company giving you a product. Just a nuance here. So let me go through all the asset classes, okay? So we talked about stocks. Stocks are companies that offer products and services that sell to consumers, okay? Or businesses. And then you have bonds. Bonds are financial instruments that give a return on the investment. They give a coupon yield. Okay, not the same as stocks. Bonds are usually government bonds are backed by the government. Corporate bonds are backed by the company issuing the bond. You have real estate. It could be a plot of land, or it could be a house or commercial real estate building that has utility for allow you to go and use the utility space.
You
Okay,
can rent it out.
Exactly.
And that's a form of income.
that's utility. It's
Yeah.
And then you have precious metals and commodities, which are other kinds of things in the real world. So metals would be like gold and silver. Commodities could be like pork barrel or like orange juice or like aluminum or other types of commodities. Okay, you have foreign currency, which don't offer products and services.
No.
So like the British pound, the euro, those are foreign currencies, another type of asset class. And then you have derivatives, which are more financial engineering derivatives asset class. And then you have Bitcoin, which is cryptocurrency asset class. So these are all the different kinds of asset classes that exist in the world. They all have different behavior and they all have market prices. Does that make sense? So they're all different. So what I'm trying to say is that they don't have to have the same services and behavior in order for them to be valuable.
So when you were talking about all the money in the world, those are also politically intertwined because
Yes.
that's how they go up and down in value.
Yes.
Now I'm curious, really curious. Is Bitcoin politically intertwined as
Great
well?
question. So Bitcoin, so by the way, all these asset classes, not all of them are related to the government. Okay. So stocks and real estate are obviously under the structure of governments. Governments manage the stock exchange and the policies and the regulations around that. Same with real estate. However, for commodities are made and mined from certain countries, but overall they're bearer assets. So if you have some coffee beans or you have some sugar, if you have it, you have it. Okay. So they may be created under the jurisdiction of government, but in the end, you have it. Okay. So you can move it and utilize it however you want. And then for precious metals, they're even more removed from government, even less involved by government. Because once you have the gold and silver, you could do whatever you want with it. So there's global value for that. They're the same all around the world, gold and silver. So Bitcoin is probably the least tied to politics in the world. So Bitcoin is completely decentralized. It's not endorsed nor backed by any single government. Some governments like El Salvador and Central African Republic, they have now legitimately legalized Bitcoin as legal tender.
Oh.
Yes, so those are the first two countries in the world now. Bitcoin is legal tender in that country.
Could you repeat the country?
There's two small countries, El Salvador
Oh, and
Central African Republic. So these are a little bit obscure, right? They're not the first tier developed countries, and they're up and coming. But in those countries, Bitcoin is now considered legal tender. So if you go to those countries, you go to a Starbucks or McDonald's, you have Bitcoin, those stores are compelled to accept your Bitcoin as payment for their goods and services.
oh wow.
Yeah. And they're just the first two. And they happened in the last 12 months, by the way, in the last 1 year.
But then I think I'm not surprised because again, it's the politics, the political, the politics part. It's not; those are the countries probably not up there doing well, and so they have to adopt something in order to start. And you
Yes.
never know where there's
Yes.
no right or wrong, and but it's a process. It's
Yes,
a process.
yes, it takes some time. Good questions. So I know, Stephen, you've been biting your tongue. You wouldn't want to ask something. Go ahead.
No, I like to actually follow up with that.
Yeah,
Because
please.
I see that Bitcoins, for its more practical, more adoption. Oh, sorry. I should have done this. And it's a potential spam. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
For its general adoption, more general adoption, you would need the value of the Bitcoin to be more comparable to the general usage and application.
Well,
But right now, Bitcoin is very expensive.
so I'll challenge you. It turns out Bitcoin is not very expensive because it's all about. So I'll tell you why. Is gold expensive?
But we don't spend gold as it is. Yeah.
But hold on. So that's why is money expensive? How about is the U.S. dollar expensive?
Well, okay.
Right. So the point I'm trying to get is today people think of one Bitcoin as $30,000.
Right.
And $30,000 is a lot of money, and
Right.
that is expensive. So
Right.
if I can't easily go and buy a Bitcoin with
Right.
my paycheck. Right. Most people don't get paid $30,000 in their paycheck. Right. So in that sense, it's expensive. But what's interesting, and I'd like you to share this perspective, is there are 21 million Bitcoins. That's what gives Bitcoin $30,000. If I told you Bitcoin was $30, would you say, that's a lot more affordable? Would you agree? If Bitcoin is $30 today, wouldn't you like it more? And the way to do it is, if you just consider Bitcoin as being 21 billion, then you'll have $30 Bitcoin.
But
So it's all about how you cut how many pieces you want.
right. My point is not that actually.
Yeah.
Is that, for example, if you want to go out and buy a Tesla today,
Yeah.
I think you can use Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Because it's the value and the, sort of say the dollar amount is very comparable. But if I want to go out and have a dinner, not in the Michelin stars, however,
Just a
many-
casual, yeah.
casual dinner.
Yeah.
I think you have a hard time trying to find. It will be 0.001
Bitcoin for the dinner. Yeah.
right. Is that how people are spending it?
Yeah, exactly.
It
That's
is?
exactly it. So
Oh,
Bitcoin. So this is something, it may be new to you.
Yeah.
It turns out Bitcoin, the smallest unit is not one Bitcoin. If that were the case,
Right.
Bitcoin is not useful as a digital currency. So it turns out I can pay. So for example, if I go to a vending machine, pay for a can of soda,
Yep.
maybe 50 cents or 80 cents.
Yep.
It turns out, now it may not be practical, but it is possible to make a payment that's only 80 cents US dollar worth of Bitcoin. Because you can pay 0.0000123 Bitcoin, which might be 80 cents.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, but somebody's doing this monitoring of the transaction fee because
Ooh. It's not that someone's doing it. So Bitcoin, the system, self-monitors everything. So there is no one person hiding inside a box somewhere that's tabulating how many Bitcoins are received and sent and confirming it's all done.
how does that work?
Well, that's the magic, right? So, for
No,
example,
it's
it's a magic. Think about it. With a traditional credit card like Visa, MasterCard, American
Yes.
Express, when you swipe the credit card, you know what happens?
3%.
Well, it's not just a 3% fee. That's not the topic I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that it's a centralized transaction. Those companies, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, have computers. They don't have people running in their room, looking at the numbers, but they have computers that work on behalf of Visa, MasterCard, American
Right.
Express. They settle those transactions. They make sure the transaction is accurate, and they will find errors, and they can reverse transactions and push back and stuff like that. So those are centralized payment systems where the company will have servers and groups of engineers and software people making sure it all adds up. That's why Visa and MasterCard, they brag about, they processed $12 billion worth of transactions yesterday, or they can do $1 trillion a year, or they can do how many tens of thousands of transactions per second all over the world, covering 58 different currencies. You've heard of these stats, right? From these credit card processing companies. Those are all companies. But when you make a payment in Bitcoin, There's no single person, no company that's approving it or not. That's why it's called decentralized. And this is the innovation that Bitcoin brings to society. For the first time now, if I were to pay you Bitcoin, I can make payment to you. Either we're right across the table now, literally, 3 feet, 4 feet apart. But if I were to go back to China and you're traveling in Europe, I can make a payment to you in the middle of the night. You receive it in the middle of your morning, whatever, on a holiday weekend with no central banks, with no government authorities condoning, allowing, or censoring our transaction. And that's the power of Bitcoin.
Why then isn't there a very large number of companies or governments, jumping into it?
Yeah. So, great question. So let me ask you this. 10 years ago, virtually no companies and governments were in doing this at all. And you're asking, why isn't there a lot today?
Right.
There isn't a lot, but there are a few. So today, 13 years after the birth of Bitcoin, finally, there are a handful of companies out there, publicly listed companies, that actually now own Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So Tesla is a good example. MicroStrategy, SpaceX as a private company owns Bitcoin. So there are handfuls of companies, maybe dozens and maybe even 100 companies. We just don't know which ones do.
SpaceX, same owner.
Well, SpaceX and Tesla are not the same owner. They have the same CEO, but they're not the same
CEO.
owner. Yes, correct.
Okay.
Same CEO, Elon Musk. So the point is that these companies, the public ones, they have to disclose it. They own Bitcoin on their balance sheet. The private ones don't disclose it, right? Even my company, Ballet, we have some Bitcoin on our balance sheet, okay? And a lot of individuals own Bitcoin now privately. Bill Gates has come out and said he doesn't own any Bitcoin. Warren Buffett has come out and said he doesn't own any Bitcoin. But trust me, there are a lot of billionaires, I can't say a lot, but there are at least a handful of billionaires today who own Bitcoin personally.
What percentage?
Multimillionaires. Still a small percentage. But my point is, from zero, you can't get from zero to full success without going through the intermediary.
Okay.
Do you agree? It cannot be just, So we are in the middle section right now. We're in the intermediary period right now. So I predict there will be a day, maybe in 5 years, 10 years, maybe in 20, 30 years, where all companies, all governments, and all individuals will own Bitcoin. That's my personal prediction. Will it happen? I think it will. Knock on wood, I think it will. Maybe, but I could be wrong. Maybe it doesn't ever happen. But if it were to happen, it has to go through this middle period, and we're in the middle period right now.
Well, that is the sigmoidal curve, the kinetics curve.
Sure.
So where you are right now is hard to
identify, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
I agree.
yes.
I agree.
Yeah. I like to. Is that okay?
Yeah,
I'd like
please
to
continue.
have another question about the process of mining. Okay.
Yes.
I just watched
Of Bitcoin mining, right? Of Bitcoin.
Bitcoin mining.
Yes,
I'm sorry,
yes,
Bitcoin
yes.
mining. I just watched a video about a company moving from China
Yep.
to the U.S., relocating. And it turned out to be boxes and boxes of computers.
Correct.
And and then they said, okay, China had the low power requirement, the type of environmental control requirements and cheap power and all that. Now, moving back to the U.S., now you're subjected to different conditions and all that. So the question is that no longer you are one person, mining it.
Your entity, a conglomerate.
You're now so of that company that showed on the video. I don't know how many people actually are mining it actively, but it appeared to be a lot.
Yeah, they have that company probably has a lot of employees helping set up the machines. They're putting in server rooms to mine Bitcoin, right?
No, but the number of operations that they do to win those
lottery tickets.
Yeah. So, and those people, the company doesn't own it, right? The people that are doing the operations.
No. In the documentary video you saw, if the company was bringing or moving these machines into a new facility in the United States to mine, I'm guessing the company owns all the machines,
oh.
and they've hired the people to bring it. So the people who are doing the labor,
Right.
they are probably employees of the company.
But the company then is mining it.
The company's mining it.
Oh, so
yes.
they are doing the millions, billions of
Exactly.
operations.
And now it's like trillions. So instead of just one or two lottery tickets per 10 minutes, these companies, through the bank of machines, probably hundreds of servers, each one is generating probably 55 billion tickets per second. Right? These are huge numbers, okay? Billions per second.
Per second.
Yeah, per second. It's super fast.
So-
Okay? And then together they have hundreds of thousands of these machines, and that's just one facility. They may have other facilities, okay?
Right.
So they are literally having trillions of lottery tickets
Right.
per second or per 10 minutes,
hoping
to win the prize.
Win the prize.
And by the way, the prize is no longer 50 Bitcoins. It's been 13 years since the creation of Bitcoin when the prize was
it's
50 Bitcoin. Now it's lower. It went
Yeah,
from 50 to 25,
right.
from 25 to 12 and a half, from 12 and a half to 6.25. So these days, we're 12, 13 years into it. The prize per winning for the lottery ticket is only 6.25 tickets.
So
And the reason is because if they kept it at 50 tickets per second, per lottery prize, if it kept going on like that, then there's no limit to the total number of Bitcoins. It can't ever be 21 million. So I don't know how good you're with math, but every 4 years, they reduce the prize by one half, from 50 to 25 to 12 and a half to 6.25. And then in 2 years, the prize will reduce to 3.125. Another 4 years later, it'll be 1.6175, something like that, whatever the number is.
yeah.
So the amount of prize goes down over time because the total of Bitcoins in issuance has to slow down in order for it to reach the 21 million
Yeah,
maximum.
no, I see that.
Yeah.
So do you still see the opportunity of individuals going in for the mining, or that is gone forever?
We think these days, for normal individuals with limited resources, it's no longer effective for you to participate in Bitcoin mining. If you're interested in Bitcoin, I highly recommend, instead of mining, for you to spend the same money and same resources just buying Bitcoin from someone else, either from an exchange or from another individual. And then you'll get more Bitcoin for the bang for your buck, so to speak. Whereas companies who they have hundreds of millions of dollars of capital available to invest, they can operate on razor thin margins. They have connections with low price electricity, low cost electricity. They have access to resources of computing data centers with good cooling, and they can also acquire, $100 or $200 million of capital equipment, the mining machines, to put in these data centers to operate. And they have the cash flow to do that.
Yeah, in a
Whereas
sense-
for normal people, it's not practical. And this analogy is similar to mining gold. Think of gold and diamond. Centuries ago, people with their raw hands and axe and picks and shovels can go to the places, whether it's California, Nevada, or in Africa, and mine gold and silver just as an individual. These days, gold, silver, diamond mines are all operated by large entities, corporate conglomerates. Does that make sense?
Well, actually, just for one correction, as recent as 1979, in Brazil, it was still
Practical?
It was still practical. It was in the place called Serra Pelada.
Yeah.
That was the last one that I heard of.
For mining what? Gold.
Gold.
Okay.
Gold.
Gold. Yeah.
Alluvial gold. Yeah.
Yeah. So for rich individuals, you can still. Its concept is similar.
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
So these companies are actually playing the roles of these large conglomerates or companies that are doing the mining operations today in China, in South Africa, Russia, and so on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Very interesting.
Good. So, do you guys have more questions? Should we take a break or should we wrap up for today?
I really have a question that I think is so.
Yeah.
It will be helpful if you
Okay.
could help me see the light.
So let's make this the last question. Our podcast is running long.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's been great having both of you. So, Mimi, you get the honor of having the last question.
What doesn't make sense to me is, number one, when you say it's limited edition. In other words, it's a limited amount of Bitcoin.
Bitcoin that will be in circulation.
That's one hand. Think about it. on the other hand, you're saying you want the entire world to adopt this Bitcoin as a currency.
No, I didn't say that.
Well,
So let me clarify that.
that's the impression people get.
No, let me clarify that. There are people like us, like me, who like Bitcoin. We predict the world will adopt Bitcoin. There's a difference between we predict something will happen versus we want something to happen.
Okay, I can accept
You
that.
see, right?
I accept
So we
that.
predict it will happen. It's kind of like I see it happening. My gut and my intuition, my education and my experience tells me 1 + 1 = 2, and therefore I should get behind it. So by having this foresight, by having this perspective, me and others have invested in Bitcoin. And because we're financially invested in Bitcoin, we'd like to see it happen to benefit my pocket, to benefit my wallet, so to speak, my bank account.
Sure.
So that's the sequence, the logical sequence. I'm a technologist. I study math and computer science. I've studied math and sciences since high school. I majored in computer science. I got involved in tech sector in Silicon Valley. Got exposed to Bitcoin 11 years ago, and from studying Bitcoin, I see the power of it. I think it will be adopted all over the world, quote unquote, take over the world. It won't be takeover in the dictatorial sense, like war sense,
Yeah.
but I think it will be adopted all over the world. I predict it will happen. And for that, I've invested in it financially. And for that, I would like to see it happen. Then it could benefit my investments and I can become rich and famous, so to speak.
You're already
Right.
famous.
Yeah. So that's the sequence. So it's not that I want or Satoshi Nakamoto are forcing Bitcoin onto the world.
I
We're not
understand.
forcing it on anyone.
No.
Yeah.
But-
So please continue.
But then,
So there's 21 million Bitcoins. That
So-
was your point.
but think about it.
Yeah.
So if it's a limited amount of, just like gold is limited, everything is limited.
Yeah.
How are we going to make your wish come through when everybody start to wanting to demand for this? And
yeah.
what happens when the last Bitcoin is sold out? Now
Well,
there's that.
No, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you how.
That's what's going to happen.
I'll tell you why. So this is
that a valid?
It's a valid question, but people who ask that question don't realize an important component of Bitcoin. And let me explain it to you, and maybe you'll see that.
Okay.
So Bitcoin is 21 million. It turns out, in the system of Bitcoin, like the U.S. dollar, what's the smallest denomination of the U.S. dollar? Do you know?
A penny.
A penny. So that's 1/100th of a U.S. dollar. $0.01 is 1 penny. Do you know what is the smallest denomination of a Bitcoin? Is it 1 Bitcoin?
I had no idea.
You have no idea. So let me tell you. It turns out Bitcoin was designed to have not just 2 decimal places like the US dollar, but rather 8 decimal places. Let me repeat that. So 1 Bitcoin can be split into not 100 pennies,
But-
not 100 Bitcoin pennies, but rather 100 million units of the smallest piece.
You
And-
lost me.
No, I didn't. No, it's not that hard.
Say it again.
100 million.
One
One
penny,
Bitcoin. One Bitcoin
one Bitcoin.
can be split into 100 million smallest parts.
Units. Yeah.
So think of a Bitcoin penny. How many Bitcoins penny in a Bitcoin?
I had no idea.
100, just like a US penny.
Okay.
That you understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 1 Bitcoin today is $30,000. What is 1 Bitcoin penny worth today?
I had no idea.
$300. Right? If you do your calculator,
Okay.
1 Bitcoin 30,000 divided by 100 is
I
$300.
thought it was 50 now. I heard. It was 50 for 1 Bitcoin.
50 what? $50,000?
$50,000.
It was
today.
$50,000
Was it?
a few months ago. It's $30,000 today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So 1 Bitcoin penny might be $300. But the point is 1 Bitcoin penny can be split into 1 million pieces. Smallest unit. So when the whole world, let's say all 10 billion people by then, today the world is like 7 or 8 or 9 billion. Let's say it'll be 10 billion. Even when the world is 20 billion people, there's still many, many Bitcoins available for each person because there's so many decimal places after the smallest unit. So does that make sense? Maybe not.
Yeah, what if you're buying the Apple company that's gonna or what if you go and buy the Tesla? How many Bitcoins can you? I mean, it's kind of confusing in a way because that's assuming that everybody already adopted the. I don't know if adopted is the right word, or accepted the Bitcoin as a currency.
So it's not. So let me repeat. Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not alive. Bitcoin is not a being that has an agenda. Bitcoin is a tool that was created by someone, Satoshi Nakamoto, and this tool, he predicts that this tool will be useful to humanity on Earth. And many people are starting to agree with him, and the people who agree with him are starting to accumulate Bitcoin and use it because they find it useful. In your case, maybe you haven't found it useful yet, and maybe you don't understand it fully yet. So that's why you don't own any Bitcoin yet, which is fine.
No,
But-
I'm trying to understand, how it was born with let's take China, for instance.
Yeah.
China, they start out just like any other country, and then they evolved to this WeChat
Yes.
payment using the phone,
Yes.
which is a electronic form as well. I'm just thinking, since they already have this system in place and is working for them, maybe that money, that system will turn to be more attractive to the rest of the world
So-
versus one that is not. I mean, hasn't proven to be effective. Let's just put
So
it
you're
this way.
confusing two different things, which is a payment system with the underlying asset. So WeChat is a payment system, just like PayPal, Venmo, and Zelle. These are all payment payment
I
rails,
see.
right?
Their
and
payment system.
they're payment systems, because what's being paid within Zelle or Venmo or PayPal? U.S. dollars. What's being paid back and forth within WeChat or Alipay? It's the Chinese renminbi.
money.
Right? So Bitcoin is both the payment system and also the underlying asset class. So when we use the Bitcoin network to make payments, we're paying Bitcoin units. Right? So this is why it's kind of difficult for a lot of new people to understand. So we're advocating for the Bitcoin unit, for that currency. We're saying this one, the Bitcoin value will go up because it's very useful as an asset class and as a payment system. Now, ultimately, will there be more people who use Bitcoin compared to people who use WeChat or Zelle? We don't know. We'll see. We'll find out in the next few years.
Yeah.
Okay? It'll take many years to find out.
I have to follow up with one short
Sure,
question.
sure,
I think
sure.
you can answer it in a short way. 21 million
Yes.
Bitcoins. Each one $30,000 today.
Today, yes.
Okay. So it's
600 billion value today.
600 billion
In value today.
in value in US dollar.
Yes, US dollar.
Okay.
That's a multiplication.
Yes.
19
yes,
million.
Exactly.
Bitcoin. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly what I want, where I want to get to, is that that is still comparably small in terms of the world GDP, is it?
Exactly. It's still comparably small compared to global asset classes.
Yeah.
So I personally think Bitcoin, the total value, which is around 500 to 600 billion today, will grow into tens, if not hundreds of trillions of dollars.
Just by evaluation.
No, just by adoption globally, just by people wanting to be part of it. That's my prediction.
Okay.
And that's why I think I have a price target Bitcoin going up 100 times, if not more.
Okay. Okay. That's my question. Yeah.
Okay? All right. Well, thank you both for being on this podcast. I really enjoyed it. These are very genuine questions from real people. And that's the purpose of the Bobby Lee Bitcoin podcast.
Thank you.
And hope to see you guys next time. Okay? Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Good. Very good.